Welcome back to another episode of the Working Joe's podcast with me, Zack Psioda, and my co-host Ralph Wolf. And don't forget to download the podcast on Android using Stitcher or Podcast Addict, or if you have an Apple phone, use iTunes. Welcome back to the Working Joe's podcast. I'm Zack, do everything by the book Psioda, and here is Ralph Wolf. Ralph Wolf, a man who not only will not train his son in air conditioning, but does not purge with nitrogen, and is so proud of it, it's unbelievable. Ralph?
Man, that's a great introduction.
Hey, 15th time's the charm.
Yeah, but it's only 50% true.
50% true? Well, hold on a second. From what I know, from what you told me previously, I think that's mostly true. Where are we wrong here?
Oh, man. Well, you mean, the flowing nitrogen part.
The flowing nitrogen part?
Yeah.
That nitrogen bottle, you know what I've found about that nitrogen bottle?
Yeah, if you don't use it, it never goes empty.
Yeah, it never goes empty, but if you try to use it, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, especially if you've got to take it on the roof.
Yeah, if you got to take it on the roof, then you know what? A little bit of scale never hurt anything, right? Those units are big up there. They got big filter dryers. So
I know.
That's what I say.
You know, it's hell if you don't use one in your park right next to the unit too.
Yeah, I know that is pretty bad because literally, sometimes your hoses are long enough you can leave it on the truck and use it.
Well, yeah.
If you string a bunch of them together.
Hey, we joke and we kid, but we do use nitrogen.
Yeah. If we use nitrogen for the truck, 25% of the time. Man, why are you inflating our numbers? Make us look good?
Hey, this is the internet, right?
Oh, that's right. We can say whatever we want.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that. After a long day of astronauting, I do service calls. Or by day, I'm a crime fighter, and at night, I add R22. I like that. That sounds
No,
better.
you drop 407C on top of 22.
That's right, because nobody's looking.
Because then you're a superhero.
That's right. All these people that are listening right now, they're saying, we hear you saying it. Okay, show me the video, man. Show me the video.
Oh, hell no, it's illegal.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not going to perjure myself on the internet. Are you kidding me?
Oh, my gosh. It's they're going to use this in a court of law somewhere. There'll be some old lady saying, I got my 10,000.
I did that video one time, how not to install an air conditioner.
Yep.
And a guy called me and said, now keep in mind, this video was just a joke. A guy called me and said, man, he said, that was a good video and all, but you really should take that part out where you blew the charge out of that unit. That's illegal and somebody could turn you in. He's like, I'm just because I care about what you're doing. I care about you. I'm like, well, in that video, I did scroll across the screen that this was only nitrogen.
That's right. Well, you know what? You put up the Facebook post is my favorite post of the day on Wednesday of the job that wasn't your job, saying, hey guys, look how great I did. These guys all take it seriously.
I know, and I just took that picture out of HVAC Pro Talk.
Yeah.
On Facebook. And the guy actually, he had just put that picture up, and I said, oh man, I want to take this picture over to our Facebook group and put it up there and see what happens. And guys actually thought it was me. I really did that job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think some of them are like waiting to critique something. So they're willing to believe it just so they can critique it.
Oh, I did that today. I did that on the job. I mean, on the post today, the guy was like, hey, roast me. And, the guys were talking about using this, like he had his red hose on his low side and he had two yellow hoses. One on the charging port, one on the charging side and one on the high side. And everybody was talking about his hose, and I was like, hey, man, you said, normally I wouldn't do this, but you said roast you, so I'm going to. Where's your temperature probe at?
Ooh. So you got him?
I guess. I mean, and he did one of those kind of embarrassed faces emojis.
He quit air conditioning because of that.
No,
He's done.
no. If that's the easiest thing, if that's how easy it is to get somebody to quit air conditioning,
Hmm.
man, we'd all be working McDonald's flipping burgers.
Oh God, I can't do that, man.
Mm.
I'll service those kiosks they got in there now for the minimum wage people.
So I have this cool story about, you during the introduction you said, and the man that will never ever train his son. And so my son goes and gets this job, or he goes to a job interview for another heat and air company, no doubt.
What?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, dude, really? Really? Why don't you just work for me? Well, Dad, we can't get along when we're working. Well, whatever. You know, there's thousands of guys that would love to be in his place.
That's right. The YouTube guys are lining up right now. Once they
I
hear
know.
this, they're going to start calling you. You need
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah. You need somebody to come help you. So, so he goes and gets this job interview, or goes and does this job interview, and the guy was like, "Hey, we're going to send you to school now. Here in Georgia, the lottery pays for people's school. It's called the Hope Grant.
Oh,
So he's eligible for the Hope Grant, and so whatever the Hope doesn't cover, his boss is going to cover. He's going to buy him new tools, good tools like flukes and Kleins and whatever, probably a Vito bag, and so he's going to have the guy
wow.
said, I want to start this company, or he's pretty established already. He does a lot of custom houses and stuff like that, and then plumbing, you know. And I was like, well, hey man, good for you, good for you. And he said, oh yeah, he told me, he said, I've been doing this for 24 years, right? And
Right.
I built up quite a reputation around, and I have a lot of respect for, from different guys, and okay, so this guy has enough nerve to tell my son, you ready for this? Where's your drum roll at?
I wish I had one. There
Where's your drum roll? And he
you
said,
go. There you go.
whatever you learn from your dad, just forget it, because I'm going to teach you how to do it the right way.
Man, what's the deal with this guy? I mean, do you know each other?
No, no, no. But I did go to one of his jobs, right? And I didn't say anything about his job or anything like that. And what it was a customer of mine was buying a house, and he wanted me just to go look at the air conditioning, make sure everything was good on it. And so back then I was using the iManifold, and I hooked the iManifold up, and I did a report and everything on this thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Did a report from the iManifold where you cannot change anything. And I found a bad TXV, right? Give the homeowner the report and said, look, you need to have your guy come back out and change the TXV because it's still under warranty, labor warranty.
Ooh,
Yes.
sour
And
grapes.
exactly. But it wasn't nothing. I didn't do it. That was the time during the TXV debacle that everybody had to go through.
Surely he wasn't angry just because of that.
Well, I don't know. He was upset enough where he went to the supply house and asked the manager of the supply house that I always go to, "Hey, do you know anything about this guy?" And the
Whoa.
man, yeah, 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 yeah. And the manager was like, "Oh yeah, he's a good guy." You know, I'm the guy that the supply house, when they have something broke, calls and say, "Hey, come fix my stuff."
Wow. And your son's gonna work for that guy. He's gonna learn himself the right way to do this trade. That's
Exactly.
good.
And I asked my son, I said, "Well, Nick, how do you know his way is the right way?" And then my son had enough nerve to say, "Well, Dad, how do you know your way is the right way?" I was like,
Oh,
"Are you serious, Nick? Are you serious?"
oh, this is great. It's unbelievable. If somebody tells you stuff like this, you say, I just can't believe someone's actually talking to me this way. The person who lives at my house.
Exactly, exactly. And here's the kicker though. If I was doing a job interview and some dimwit, that's what I'm gonna call him. Some dude said, "Hey, he should have pretty much said, "Hey, dude, I just don't like your dad." For whatever reason, I never did anything to the guy other than say, "Hey, you need to have your guy come out and change his TXV." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I would have been my son, I probably would have got up and said, "Hey, what the fuck?" Oh,
Oh, I'll put it like a beep on that or something.
yeah, yeah. It was one of those situations where, dude, really?
Yeah. If I walked in there to, first of all, I wouldn't walk anywhere to get a job except for my father. I can imagine that going to one of his competitors and trying to get a job. I mean, it's odd enough me working in the same county that my father works in, although we're not really competition for each other. But it's so weird. Your son must have, I don't know what was going through his head when the guy goes, basically, don't listen to your dad. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly,
Come
exactly.
on, say something. Hey, you're stupid or something. I don't know.
Well,
Pretty.
he's there trying to get a job, and at one part of me says, you know what, just let him do what he has to do, and the other part of me is like, are you serious? You know what I mean? Here, dude, you don't get it. If something was to happen to me and you were working with me, you could just take over the business, and guess what? You have a established customer base.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
It's the funny
But
thing
see,
about young kids; they don't really think ahead real well.
no, they don't. They don't. And here's another deal: is he's not. I could. Well, just like your dad, or but I'm still old school, but I still do things the way they're supposed to be done. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I know exactly
I'm
what you
not
mean.
I'm not beer can cold. I'm checking airflow. I'm checking that kind of stuff, and I don't know. I think it's that because he's my son, in his mind, if I tell him to go sweep the floor to clean up a job, I think he thinks that, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have to do that because I'm not a helper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what this sort of. I don't know if you want to call it entitled or something like that when you work for your father. I had the same thing when I worked for my dad. You'd have to get over it, I guess. And me and my brother would squabble. So it's kind of a strange dynamic to have the same guy who's telling you to clean your room start telling you to do stuff at work, except all of a sudden he's paying you now. The expectations are hopefully the same, but they're different.
Right.
Because at
Well,
home you're like,
but
I'll do it whenever I feel like it.
my other son worked with me for several years, and he liked going to work with me. I mean, I never had a problem, because I didn't have to tell him to clean up. He would just do it.
Yeah, I've seen the videos or whatever. The was it Atlanta's Finest where he was setting the unit by himself and fitting it up and everything.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and the funny thing is because I do all the inside stuff because when you start fitting that kind of stuff up together, if it needed sheet metal or whatever, I just do it. He didn't know how to do it, but he could do everything on the outdoor unit except for braze.
Right.
Um, and then so I go do that when it was time, but then I'd be inside and I come outside and the condenser was already loaded up, all the trash was picked up from outside, and the first time I ever did that, walked outside and saw that, I was like, oh my God, tell me, how'd you get that unit in the truck? And he said, I use the straps, Dad. So
Oh,
he created the way to, do it without needing help.
there's different maturity levels for different children.
Well, that is true. This goes into something a whole different subject. But just because kids are raised in the same household, everybody says, "Oh, it's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault." No, that's not always true.
No, it's definitely not true. I have three kids and they're very different on
Yeah,
what they
and
will do, how quickly they listen. You know.
yeah, and there's like, I mean, it's true. They're all different, and some could grow up and go to prison, you know, and the other one be a whatever, a lawyer or whatever.
President of the United States.
Exactly. I mean, so it just depends on the kid. It's everybody's always like, well, it's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault. Well, that's not always true.
Yeah. It's an excuse the kids use. It's my parents' fault.
Yeah.
They didn't teach me right. They didn't learn me to write stuff. Well, sometimes people don't want to listen when you're getting learnt. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so you're talking about listening. Why don't we listen to Bob from Inficon?
Well done. Absolutely. That sounds good. We have Bob Belvick from Inficon is going to tell us a whole lot about their handheld products and a little bit about, stay tuned for part 2 because this is a two-parter, a little bit about how he got into Inficon. Really cool story. Now, where'd you find Bob at?
Where did I find Bob?
Yeah, you found Bob. Where'd you find him?
You know, we talk about how YouTube does things. Because of YouTube, that led me to talk to one of the reps and, explaining about the YouTube channel and that kind of stuff. And that rep, I didn't ask, that rep took it upon himself to get in touch with Inficon, didn't tell me he was going to do it, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from Inficon.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
So now we have a two-part podcast. Looks like that's going to be our norm. A two-part podcast with Bob Belvick from Inficon. So let's get into talking to Bob.
So we're talking with Bob today from Inficon. And I got in touch with Bob. Actually, Bob got in touch with me through one of the reps that deal with that reps his product with the Inficon product. And I was telling the guy's name is Duncan, and I was telling Duncan about my YouTube channel and the podcast, and we were trying to get guests on the show, and so he was like, "Well, I'm going to get you in touch with the guys over at Inficon," and he was telling me about the scale, and that thing, y'all saw the video where I ran the scale over with the truck, and people were like, "You're crazy. Why would you do that?" And my answer was, because they told me to. They asked me if I would do it, and I said, "Well, can I spin out on it?" And they said, "Only if you send us a video." And I did, and the one thing I did wrong on that video, and Bob told me, he said, the one thing that you did, and it wasn't anything bad, but I just didn't know, but he made sure to let me know that during the video you saw me try to reconnect the hand controller, and I kept pushing the Bluetooth button on the scales, but my app on my phone was still open. So it always goes back to whatever was open the last time. So and I didn't know that, or I would have closed the app on my phone, and I would have never had an issue. So, but I do appreciate you sending the scale, and as I know y'all appreciate me making a video of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, we appreciate you doing that. Definitely, the video turned out really great, and the scale especially. We typically, we have our motto: laboratory accurate, toolbox tough. The scale is probably the most toolbox tough thing that we make. I mean, you saw it. You ran it over with your truck. We have our YouTube video where we ran it over with a front loader, and the thing is just rock solid.
Oh yeah.
I saw the front loader run the thing over. I was like, man, Ralph ran over with his truck. It's unbelievable. So I was scoping out the videos before we got started here tonight. And I said, well, that's a giant vehicle running over that thing. And it's unbelievable. I can't believe it still works.
Yeah, it worked right afterward. No problem. And in fact, we take that, we still have that exact scale, and we take it with us to trade shows a lot because it still has a big footprint from the front loader on it. So we like to bring that one because everybody comes over to the trade show booth and goes, "Oh, what the hell did you do to that?"
That's funny.
And it still works.
Yep, it still works.
And y'all have a bunch of these around the office, huh? So the office women are probably weighing themselves.
We do that occasionally. We do that.
They have the app on their phone so nobody sees.
Yeah. We have some pretty good days in the office sometimes. So we like to have a good time and keep things lighthearted over there. So yeah, we're all occasionally jumping on the scale or doing whatever, and having a good time with it.
Yeah, because I called the other day. I was trying to get in touch with you. You was out of the office, and I called your number, and it went to voicemail. And then I called the number, or I went to the office or to the operator, and
Oh yeah, sure.
she answered the phone, but it was right there at morning and afternoon, and she was like she didn't know exactly what to say, and I was joking around with her when I finally got to say something, and she's like, huh? I was like, well, you sound like you didn't know what to say. And, you know, so yeah, I could tell from the girl that answers the phone to everybody else I've talked to over there.
Yeah, she's a great lady too. That's probably Barb that you talk to. She runs the front desk, and so on her normal days, unless she's on break or on vacation, she'll be answering the phone if you call the main Inficon number.
Right.
Of course, we have our Inficon Service Tools 800 number also, and
Right.
that rings right straight to directly to one of our Service Tools people.
Now you are the product manager um for the scales and the leak detectors.
Right. So, yeah, so I'm the product manager for all of Inficon Service Tools. So, any of your handheld leak detectors, so your DTEC, your TechMate, GasMate, all that stuff, and the scale, the recovery machines, anything that's aimed at the HVACR service and aftermarket, basically.
Well, I like to say I know Ralph loves his H10, but before we go any further, I'd like to tell you that I have a TechMate and a DTEC Select. But I'll turn it back over to Ralph now.
That's great to hear.
Hey, well, I never even looked at the Inficon, and I'm glad that I was, I got in touch with y'all, or we got together because, for if a tech doesn't know that there's other options available, then they just don't know. And I know a lot of times on Facebook, guys will be like, well, what's the best leak detector? And I know the H10 for me has been a great leak detector for many, many, many years. And I'll naturally answer the H10. And a lot of guys will come on and say, Inficon and so it's always a battle. So, and it's, doing these podcasts is great because now we can have manufacturers on and they can tell us why your product is so much better or what makes your products good
Mm-hmm.
or what makes it good for us.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, the H10, it's a very popular detector, and I can't really take anything away from it. It's a good unit. They've been selling it for a long time, and it's been really good for them. We It's a little, obviously, since you use it all the time, it's a little bit bigger and bulkier than one of our units, and it works a little differently. It's a pretty unique unit in that you can adjust the sensitivity with knobs and whatnot, and it has sort of that manual zero function. Most of our units, the primary zeroing is automatic. So you'll notice when you go in to find a leak, if you hold it there, it will wait a few seconds and then it'll slow down. The beeping will stop, and that's when it's automatically zeroed. So at that point, it's looking for the next for a higher level of refrigerant. So where you would probably do that manually with your H10.
Right. Because I get to pick if I'm in there and I really can't find it, then I can change it mine has, it has small, medium, and large.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go from, I normally start with medium. And if I can't find it or I get to the door, normally when I get to the door, if it's on medium and I don't even take the door off and it starts going off, of course, I'm not going to look.
Yeah.
I already know, hey, the leak is here.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can get to around the cabinet door and it'll start going off, at the seams. And so I just kind of stop. But the heated diode, a lot of people are like, well, it's not really doesn't work that great for 410. Now I could find some leaks with it, but the infrared that y'all, your top of the line leak detector with the infrared is so much better. People say. So that's why I'm.
So the heated diode is still a pretty good technology. In fact, our TechMate is a heated diode leak detector also. So, and a lot of people swear by our TechMate. And it's super, super sensitive to chlorinated refrigerants, especially. So it's kind of going away. But if you do any 22 leak detection, that is going to be great at it. It's going to be super sensitive to the 22. But the difference in the technologies, I'll go into that a little bit here. So on a heated diode leak detector, you have a heated element inside the sensor, and it heats the sensor up. If there's refrigerant in the air around it, it actually physically breaks down the refrigerant, and it to sort of in a more of a general sense, it breaks down the refrigerant and it causes a current inside the sensor, and the leak detector reads the current, and that's when it alarms. So with the downside of that is, since you are breaking things down and you're actually using up part of the sensor, sort of. So it has what we often refer to as like a razor blade effect, where when you first put your sensor in, it's really sensitive, just like a nice sharp new razor blade.
Right.
And then as you use it, it gets a little more dull and a little more dull, and then eventually you have to replace it. And I'm not sure on the H10, but on our TechMate, we usually say 80 to 100 hours is about the sensor life.
Yeah.
And then, so the difference is when you go to the infrared, instead of actually breaking down the refrigerant, what infrared does is it has an emitter, a little light tube, and a detector on the other end of the sensor. The sensor, instead of the little tiny sensor of the heated diode, the infrared sensor is about 3.5, 4 inches long, and the refrigerant or air or refrigerant, whatever's present, is pumped in and out of that sensor, and the emitter is shining light down that tube, basically. And certain refrigerants absorb light of a certain wavelength. And the detector cartridge at the other end is looking for the light. So you're sending it from one end and it's looking for it at the other end, just like if you and I were standing in a hallway and I'm shining a flashlight at your face.
Right.
But when there's refrigerant present, more or less, it's like filling that hallway with smoke. I'm not going to be able to shine the flashlight in your face anymore because it's filled with smoke, and the smoke's going to stop the light from getting to you.
Ah.
So that's kind of what how the infrared works. The refrigerant absorbs the light, and the detector cartridge doesn't see it anymore at the other end of the sensor, so it knows that there's refrigerant there.
So it's kind of like a garage door, a safety on a garage door.
Mm-hmm.
You break it and then it'll open up.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's looking for that. It's looking for the light to stop, and because we have a filter in there, so there's only certain wavelengths of light going through the filter, and those are the wavelengths that get absorbed by refrigerants.
Right. Now, I've never owned an infrared, so is there a lifespan on any of the parts on the inside?
There is, but it's very long. An infrared sensor, generally in the DTEC, we say it lasts 1,000 hours plus.
Wow.
So, you're going to replace 10 to 12 probably heated diode sensors by the time you have to replace one infrared.
Now, is it rechargeable, or do you have to put batteries in it?
The DTEC is rechargeable. It's a little bit older battery. It's a nickel metal hydride rechargeable. So, and that actually is a good opportunity. If you, I can bring up, we're actually working on fairly soon. We're going to be releasing an update to the DTEC, a newer model called it's going to be called DTEC 3. And that'll be a replacement for the DTEC Select eventually. And that we're upgrading the sensor. It'll probably have longer sensor life. It'll be easier to install and replace the sensor if you need to. And the battery is going to be a lithium-ion rechargeable. So it's going to be a little bit nicer setup, but very similar technology, just a sort of a redesigned.
And the plug, is it
facelift?
Is the plug for a cigarette lighter, or is it for an outlet?
On the DTEC or any of our rechargeables, actually, not specific to the DTEC, we have a car charger and a wall charger, so we include both.
Yeah, because I mean, I would never. Mine would always just be in the truck.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of guys do too, or they'll forget to charge it overnight and they'll charge it on the way to the job or something
Right.
like that. So yeah, we always include both chargers. It just makes sense to have them.
But yeah, so like I said, I've always had good luck with the H10, and of course I renamed mine and sold stickers because of it. Called the Bloodhound, and guys bought them.
Yep.
You know,
I
so
have one.
yeah, you have one.
I have one. My H10's in the shop right now, but I do have a Bloodhound sticker. I have a quick question for you. The new D-Tech 3, same sensor technology? Infrared?
It's also an infrared sensor. We did redesign the sensor though, so it's going to be a little more sensitive, I think. I don't have exact specifications from my engineers yet on it, but it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a little more sensitive, and they were working on reducing some of the false alarms that you occasionally get, like when the temperature changes and stuff like that. So they're working on making the sensor a little bit more stable. I mean, it's a good sensor now. A lot of guys really love that sensor now, but we just want to make it that much better.
Well,
So when do you think it'll be out?
It's I think you're probably looking either by the end of this year or early next year.
Right.
Wow, I think it's Ralph talking about the H10 over there. It's usually in the debates online. It's usually D-Tech versus the H10.
Yeah,
and I've owned both. I've had the H10G, and I've had the D-Tech Select, and it's a pretty close race in my opinion. And then you can factor in things like it's easier to carry it around, the D-Tech Select, because it's not big.
Right.
They're close. They're really close. I was really surprised because when that H10 died, I was the same way as Ralph here. I was like, oh God, it's over now. I'm about to buy some kind of best tech heated diode and wish for the best. But it really was a nice detector, and I carry it with me every day now. And I like to recharge it in the truck. That's where all the recharging takes place for me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's the one dig at the D-Tech Select is the battery takes a really long time to charge, because it's just an older design nickel metal hydride battery that came out in 2004. So, it takes you have to leave it plugged in for 10 to 12 hours for a full charge.
Wow. So
so that's why most guys will just leave it plugged in overnight and let it charge.
Yeah.
Now, what about the new one? Is it
the new one will charge in probably 2 to 3 hours. So that'll be a much quicker charge, and the idea is also to have the battery's a lot easier to change out. So you could theoretically have one charged up fully and ready to swap in and out, just like you do with your power drill at home or something.
Could be that easy. Just push two buttons and pull it out and put it in.
I wish I could show you something, but the way the idea is that the bottom of the detector will come off, kind of like the D-Tech Select does now, and there's a little track system in there, and on the top is the sensor that slides in on the top, and on the bottom the battery slides in. But it pretty much is just you put it on the track, slide it in, or pull it out. So it'll be a very nice, simple, easy to use system.
All of the sensors are field replaceable as well, no matter which detector we're talking about, right?
Yep, that's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we're actually Inficon's actually the only company that makes a field replaceable infrared sensor, to my knowledge. A lot of any of the other ones out there, you either have to send it back to get it repaired or get the sensor replaced at the factory, or you have to buy a new detector.
Yeah, we don't like buying new detectors,
especially when you're buying a good one, because it's expensive.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you're spending a lot of money on it. You should be able to replace the sensor if it goes bad.
Now, here's a good question. So can you run it over with the truck?
I don't think you're going to be able to run that one
over. Scale.
I don't think you'll be able to run that one over with the truck, but you should be able to. It should survive a drop, from 5 or 6 feet.
Oh, it does.
Well,
it
does.
So I mean, it's not going to be. It won't be. It won't be that bad, but.
Yeah. So no, I can't run that one over with the truck.
Nope, unfortunately not. I mean, you can, but I'm pretty
You
sure it's
won't
not
take
going
it
to
back
work
for
when you're done.
warranty.
Yeah, that one won't be under warranty anymore.
Wow.
You better be a pretty smooth talker during your warranty phone call, Ralph.
Well, I was dating this girl, see, and she
Oh
kind of
God.
got mad. She
Yeah, that's. Oh, you got to
instead
go
of
for the
keying my
pity route.
truck,
It's the
yeah,
pity route.
instead of keying my truck, she took my one of my prized possessions, my leak detector, and she set it on my she ran it over. Come on, y'all, hook a brother up.
Yeah. I wish you the best of luck with that, Ralph. What I like, I was watching the videos earlier, sort of kind of like prep for when you came in and talked to us, and I was watching the videos on the detectors, even though I already owned them, because I figured there's always stuff that I don't know about them, and the sensor and the way it's filtered on the detect, they had to stick it in a glass of water, and I'd forgotten about that. You can actually immerse the end of it, and it won't damage it. And I know that some of the other detectors, you immerse the end of it, and you get a new detector.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's a really that's kind of a pride point for us, and it was one of the things when we talked about making the new one that we, as a group, we looked around at each other and said, "No, let's keep the sensor or the filter as it is because it's awesome." It's a little piece of fabric, like a Gore-Tex type fabric in the filter, and that stops moisture, water and oils and things from getting through it. So it's a great design. The filter is great. And like you saw in the video there, you can dip it in a glass of water and it won't suck any water through. So it's really a lot better than any of the other filters that I'm aware of.
yeah. Because if I suck water up in mine, it's done for a while.
Yeah. I always hate it because you troubleshoot evaporators that were just in use and they're soaking wet, and then I had the leak detector on it, and a piece of water falls directly into the tip. It happened like 100 times. It's nice to know that it's not going to totally ruin my day when that
Well,
happens.
Yep.
that's one reason I don't. A lot of guys try to pinpoint where the leak is, and that's one reason I don't try to pinpoint because I don't want water
Mm-hmm.
in there. So if it does pick it up, hey, we're gonna have to replace this.
Oh yeah, you can stick it in water now. You can stick the H10 in water and you electrocute yourself.
Hey, not the battery powered one.
Oh, that's true. I've never used a battery powered one. It's just the H10G for me.
Well, I had to buy it because that's what I'm used to, but I have a feeling I'll be getting another one.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, let's talk about your scale a little bit more. I mean, I did a little bit of reading about the scale. You have an application now. We just talked to a gentleman on the previous podcast about EPA regulations,
Mm-hmm.
and your Bluetooth app will allow you to log the refrigerant that you're, weighing in and out, so you'll be able to keep track of it. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, and that's a great feature on our scale. The like you said on the now it's only on the app because when we sell our scale, we sell it with the handpiece, like you saw Ralph using on his video, and then we also sell it without the handpiece, so you can use it just with the app only. Um, the When you use it with the app, you can either set an alarm to notify you when you're nearing your refrigerant setting, whatever setting you put in there. It'll notify you when you get to 90%, I think.
Yeah, I forget exactly what it is. I can look right.
Yep. And then the other thing is, like you mentioned, you can log your refrigerant either after the alarm goes off, you can log it, or you can just do a log from scratch without an alarm. And when you do that, it saves it with a date and time stamp, shows how much refrigerant you've transferred, and then it allows you to email it off to whoever you want using your phone. So it right now with those EPA changes, I believe they're requiring you to log your refrigerant transfer, and so you can email it off to your boss or the company that you're where you're doing the work, whatever you need to do, and that's so it's super handy.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's what he was talking about. They're having to keep track of it now in case you're audited by the EPA, which is fantastic sounding.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, EPA, IRS, nothing sounds good.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to ask you, I'm very familiar with your leak detectors. I mean, I own both of the ones we've been talking about. Ralph has your scale. He's running it over with his vehicle. What other products do you have that like these handheld products for service techs that we don't know about?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically, in our service tools product portfolio, we have our handheld leak detectors. So they're your DTAC Select, your TechMate. We also have one that not a lot of people know about. That's it's not as well known in between those two, called the Compass. The Compass is a heated diode detector similar to the TechMate, except it has a couple little upgrades, including it has a rechargeable battery instead of using D-cell batteries, and we moved the sensor from the body of the detector to the tip of the probe, and that lets it it gives it a little better sensitivity than the TechMate, but it also has a better filter on it. So where the TechMate just uses the little foam filters, this has more a filter system similar to the DTEC.
I've never heard of that one.
No.
Yes, a lot of people don't know about the Compass, but yeah, we do have that one, and we don't sell anywhere near as many as we do TechMates and DTECs, but we do sell a fair amount of them. And then moving on from that, we have our DTEC CO2 for carbon dioxide detection. It's basically the same as the DTEC Select, except it uses a different sensor, and the software and everything, and it's different. It's tuned specifically to CO2. We have a combustible gas detector, the GasMate. So nowadays we're selling a ton of those because of the flammable refrigerant movement, if you will.
Yeah.
Everybody going to R290 and 441A, R600. That's it picks up all of that stuff.
But you can't change the sensor from one to the other, can you?
Right. Yeah. Right. So you have to, in our situation, you have to have a GasMate for the combustible gas stuff and flammable refrigerants, and then you have to have your DTEC or whatever for your traditional refrigerants, your synthetic ones.
Is there ever a plan to switch over? I mean, to make it to where they're interchangeable?
There hasn't. I don't believe there's a plan just yet to do that. I mean, I won't say it wouldn't happen, but it's not on the roadmap to my knowledge.
Right.
The other nice thing about the GasMate is it's intrinsically safe. A lot of the hydrocarbon and combustible gas leak detectors on the market are not intrinsically safe. So basically that means we had it tested and it is guaranteed not to blow up in a combustible environment, which is definitely the goal.
Every time I go into a combustible environment, my goal is to not blow up. So that is perfect.
Right. So yeah, we have GasMate. We also have an ultrasonic leak detector called Whisper. That's a really nice unit. Have you guys worked with any ultrasonic stuff?
No,
I have never had one before.
Okay, so I'll give you a real quick rundown of how it works. So an ultrasonic leak detector basically has a microphone in the tip of it that is tuned to listen for a specific frequency. It's a high frequency sound around let's say 40,000 hertz, and that's higher pitch than any of us can hear. So when you have a leak with any kind of pressure behind it, it forces the air or gas, whatever gas, through that orifice, and it makes a noise in that frequency range that we can't even hear. So the leak detector is actually listening for that leak. And for that reason, you can use it on basically any gas.
Right.
Because it's not looking to interact with it chemically or anything like that. It's just listening for it. So you can use it on compressed air systems, nitrogen, any kind of refrigerant or gas, that as long as there's pressure behind it, the Whisper will pick it up.
Now, down to how many microns do you know?
Well, that's always the hard thing to explain with these. There isn't really, it's super hard to put a number on it because it varies with the amount of pressure behind it and the size of the leak that, or the size of the orifice, the hole that the leak is coming out of. There are a lot of different factors that go in there, so we don't really publish a specification for the minimum leak size. We just a lot of times we just end up saying, well, it depends. And that's the short answer. But so it's not an ultrasonic isn't really a detector that you're going to keep in your toolbox and use every single day like you will a leak detector, but it's something that you keep in your toolbox and use occasionally, and
So
might be something really handy here and there.
So it is handheld though.
Yes.
And
yep. It's handheld. It looks it's the body of it, the main body and the handle is just like a TechMate. So it's similar to that. It just has a much shorter snout on it instead of a long probe like a traditional leak detector. And last year we actually added a laser pointer to it as well. So you press the power button, it turns on a laser, so you can see where you're pointing a little bit better.
Right.
Partially because when you're using an ultrasonic, you can actually use it from several feet away, sometimes 30, 40 feet away. You can detect sound. So we generally say you should use the headphones. It comes with headphones. You put those on, and you can actually hear the leak making that blowing noise.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really
what
cool
about
technology.
background noise though?
Background noise, it depends. I mean, sometimes it can be an issue. It depends on the frequency of the background noise, I've been in some places where it was a little difficult to hear, and sometimes it's not. If there's people talking and things like that going on, if you have a good set of headphones, then you should be fine, because there's not a lot of stuff in that ultrasonic frequency.
So if you're at a lady's house and she's watching soap operas, it's not gonna, the TV's up real loud. It's not gonna pick that up.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay there.
What a subjective.
Well,
What frequency is the lady talking, Ralph?
Well,
that's a good question.
Hey, I don't want to sound sexist or nothing. That's not who I am.
Well, no, I've never used one. That's kind of interesting. I never would have thought you could have detected leaks from 30 or 40 feet away.
It's again, it all depends on how much pressure is behind the leak and all that stuff, but you definitely can. And in fact, if you visit us at a trade show booth, a lot of times we'll bring a racket ball or with a hole in it, or some kind of ball with a hole poked in it, and we'll just squeeze the ball and let you listen to the leak, and then we'll keep walking further and further away. And I've seen it go 40 or 50 feet.
Wow.
Squeezing a racquetball with a pinhole in it's a pretty good sized leak, but you can hear it from 40 or 50 feet.
That's crazy.
A lot of guys.
And that's at a trade show where there's a lot of people talking around and stuff too.
Right.
Just like 50 guys just decided to buy this so they could try this at their house.
Exactly. And
mission accomplished.
There are actually a couple other cool applications for Whisper too, because we actually sell it in two ways. We sell the base kit, and then we sell one with an accessory kit. The accessory kit comes with a hard metal probe that you screw on the end of it, and you can touch the probe to things like the housing of a mechanical piece, and you'll be able to hear if a bearing's going bad in it, because you put the headphones on and you can hear the growling bearing if it's starting to go bad.
Now that right there. That just raised that number from 50 to probably 100.
Oh yeah, all the commercial techs are like, oh, what? Okay.
What? Yeah. What are you saying?
It's one of those things. This is one of those products that it gets a ton of attention at trade shows. Everybody says, "Ooh, what's that?" And then we show them things like that, and they go, "Wow, this is awesome." But most people don't know that it exists outside of that.
Is it because of the cost of it, or is it because
No, I'd say it's not really that expensive. I mean, I can't speak for our distributors, but I think most of the time it's around a couple $100.
So it's the same price basically as a leak detector. I mean,
it's cheaper than a D-Tech. It's probably more than a TechMate, cheaper than a D-Tech.
Yeah,
wow,
I think that's exactly right. I think TechMate's around 160 and D-Tech's around 375, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so
that's cheaper than the H10.
Especially the battery one.
I could tell you that much. I bought 3 of them.
Yeah. Now it's not, the ultrasonic won't pick up things as sensitive, it won't pick up things as small as leaks as small as a leak detector. Right. So your H10 or even a TechMate or a D-Tech, they're going to pick up smaller leaks than a Whisper will, but Whisper has a lot of, like I said, it just has a lot of different applications, and There's actually one more that I didn't even say yet. So the Whisper, the accessory kit also comes with a little ultrasonic transmitter. It's just a little box about the size of a deck of cards. You turn it on, you put it, let's say, inside of a cooler at a grocery store or wherever you work, and put it inside the cooler. Then you close the door, walk outside the cooler, and you move the Whisper around the door seal, and you can tell if the seal's leaking because you'll be able to hear it. It makes a really distinct noise.
That's really interesting.
That you can only hear through the headphones.
This is really cool. I've never knew
Well,
any of
there's
this
150 people now.
We've tried it on door seals on cars and stuff too, and whatnot, and it works there too. You have to be a little careful about the glass. Sometimes it'll come through the glass, but it does work in those applications too.
Wow.
I know from watching guys like NorCal, which is our buddy Dave, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago. He does a lot of work on walk-ins and even reaching coolers, and they're all the time having to replace the door gaskets. I never thought of using it for that, because I'm sure those guys would probably get a kick out of that.
That would do the job, definitely.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's something he could, because probably when he's changing them, the people can feel the leaks coming. They can feel the leak at that point. But he can put that thing in there and say, "Hey, look."
Yeah, you'd be able to pick up something a lot finer that you can't necessarily feel with your hand.
Yeah, he could do it during his PM.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yep.
You've been listening to the Working Joe's podcast. Stay tuned next Tuesday, the 27th of June, for part 2 with Bob Belvick from Inficon.